Hello, shalom, salam, and hola. Welcome to the Hot Jewish Podcast. I'm Michael, aka Hot Jewish Energy. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Hot Jewish Energy, at Hot Jewish Podcast, at Michael T. Valdes with an S at the end, and at Hot Jewish Short King. Welcome to the episode, everybody. I finished Jewish matchmaking last night. It was a little anticlimactic at the end. I didn't really love that they brought new people in like in the second to last episode. It didn't make sense. I wanted to see like an arc, but I mean, it is what it is. I I might submit. I don't know. I'm thinking of submitting because I am very tempted to. Is this the right way of saying it? To have a shidduch. So I'm really tempted. I'm done with the dating apps. I'm tempted to go Shomer Nagia as well if I'm going to do shidduch, or if I'm not, I just want to go Shomer Nagia until like I guess until you're exclusive. Like I think Shomer Nagia would, for me as someone who's not Orthodox, would be no kissing and no sexual stuff, like a hug, hand holding. Okay, that's innocent, but Shomer Negion sex stuff. Like I would not do that. I would wait until we are exclusive or until there is some potential, then you'll get a kiss. So I think it could be a good opportunity for me. I might meet the person of my dreams, whether it's a man or a woman. I don't care as long as the person is a good person. And yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about myself because this episode is going to be so much fun. I say that every episode, but this one, because this is such a cool person. We're friends now. She's just really, really great. Her name is Danielle Brody. You guys might know her as Jews and Doodles and Danielle and Doodles on Instagram or whatever. I know she's on Instagram, but if she's on other social media platforms as well, I know her from Instagram, but she's just so cool and she's a lot of fun. She's really sweet. And I think this episode is going to be a little bit more lighthearted. I think her content is definitely not as very much like very serious, dark. It's very much lighthearted, easily digestible, and I'm really excited to have her on today. This is the episode of the Hot Jewish Podcast with special guest Danielle Brody, Jews and Doodles. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm here with Danielle Brody, Jews and Doodles. Hi,
Hey,
welcome.
hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm happy to have you here. And you're one of the very few people that I've had on that I actually have spoken to privately. We're getting lunch next
We're
week.
getting
Like
lunch. We're gonna
I
meet in
for
person for the first time, which is very exciting.
Yeah, and it's been very nice. And you're I was telling them before you came on, you're just I love the energy that you bring. It's very much very calming, very articulate, very much like no drama, nothing crazy, just like a really wholesome person.
Aw, thank you. That's so nice. I mean, the cartoons represent one side of me. Maybe in other instances, it's not exactly like that. But I think that the cartoons are a fun way to express myself, and there's something about the medium that kind of forces me to kind of stay focused on a storyline. I mean, I used to do stand-up comedy, so it's almost like telling a joke, but you have to kind of keep it concise, and I've been doing it now for like a little over 3 years. So I've learned a lot. My style has changed, and I know you said that I'm wholesome, which I like. I like to use the word earnest, but I like both, and I have a background in journalism too, which I think kind of gives me that like earnest touch. Just trying to like deliver a message in a clear way. But you haven't you said we've spoken on the phone, and I've showed you some of my products and cartoons, and you've inspired me to give the cartoons a hotter touch. So some of them might be getting a little bit less wholesome, which I think is a fun direction to go in.
You know what? Being hot is wholesome too.
Yes.
Don't downgrade being hot, and it can be tasteful.
Tastefully
There's a
hot.
tastefully hot. There's a difference between being nasty and being very wholesome hot, like very like tasteful. So
Tasteful.
we're gonna get into a little sneak peek of what me and Danielle have coming in the future, but
Yeah.
I want to start off with where you grew up. You grew up in Westchester, which is obviously, for those of you that don't know, Westchester, New York is a very, very Jewish area, probably the most Jewish outside of New York City, Long Island probably being like second or third of
Mm.
Jewishness. But what was it like growing up in Westchester? What was your family like? What was it like growing up?
Yeah, it was very Jewish. I don't think I realized until I got to college, which sounds silly, that there was any other type of Jew besides like Ashkenazi. Um, but I was exposed to a lot of different types of Jewishness, which I'll get to. But yeah, I grew up in Westchester. I have two younger sisters. We always had a dog. I don't know. I'm going into a lot of detail. And we're a really close family. My dad's first cousin put it really well. He said that our family, I had a chaotic upbringing or like controlled chaos or something, or casual. I think he called it a casual upbringing. Like my parents were in some ways just like very relaxed. Like I said to my sisters once, like, did we ever have a bedtime? And she's like, I don't think so. Like I think I decided my bedtime. Like my parents was just very much like go with the flow. They were really fun. Like they were always my dad had a business running events for other bit like corporate events. So a lot of like it was kind of like a business networking breakfast is mostly what he did, but he kind of did other types of events. My mom would help him. They worked in my house, so that was sort of weird in my neighborhood in Westchester. Most people's parents commuted to the city every day, and mine didn't. My dad worked in like on the first floor of our house, and he had for some years he had people like working in the house too. So just it's kind of hard to explain, but like everything in my house, it was just like there weren't like boundaries between work and family and like adult events and kids events or like corporate events and family events. Like everything was kind of mixed. Like my dad's coworkers babysat me and people that he met at events like became his friends and would like come to our house. And so it was just a very like fun home to grow up in, and very dynamic. It did make us a little bit different than other people in my neighborhood, I felt, because, like I said, most people's parents just, it was more like structure, like parent woke up, went to the city, came home. Like the parents weren't really home a lot during the day. Like a lot of my friends had nannies, but my parents were like very accessible to me. Also, my dad is from South Africa, so we just had this like whole different culture that's like literally foreign to a lot of people. Um, so we just had like lots of South African art around the house, and I listened to like a lot of South African music as a kid. So like those are some of my favorite songs. And every summer, my family would do this huge party called a braai. So braai means barbecue in Afrikaans or in South Africa. That's like one of the languages. Um, so it's like a huge the way they did it, it was this huge party in a park in Westchester. It started in our backyard and it grew so much they had to take it to a park. And like I think at the biggest it was like 500 people, and it was like a whole day thing, and it was like every person in the family was involved in helping. So my sisters and I would like run registration, and then later in the day we'd like run around selling T-shirts after people had enough to drink. We'd like set up games. I think my middle sister would always like be on like food, like helping serve platters of like raw meat, and then people would barbecue them because Bri is barbecue, and that was something I always looked forward to. So we were just like always in it together as a family, for better or for worse. Not for worse, that sounds negative, but I mean, obviously, like my sisters and I fought growing up, but we're always very close. And I think that that foundation in my family is like, of course, like shaped my life and has been something that we all fall back on, like the closeness that we have, like even my family's gone through like a lot of changes. We'll get to that. And just because we had this like really strong family bond, my dad told me that him and my mom always like had this policy, which they didn't tell us, but that they never let us like linger in a fight. Like if the two of us were fighting, they like made us, they didn't pick sides. They were just like, those two need to work it out. And I remember in college, my sister and I had such a stupid fight. Like she thought I stole her shorts and I didn't. And I was so mad at her. Like I wouldn't talk to her, and we were mad. And my dad was like, kept calling me, like, "Did you make up yet? Did you make up yet?" And I was like, "Why are you so involved?" Like, and it was like he didn't want us to ever like be estranged or ever have a moment that like ruined our relationship. Like it was very important for my parents that we were all, um, we had this bond and we all had a relationship.
What was it like when you went to college, when you left the house?
I think my parents were happy because
They
I was a
were happy.
lot. I was a lot. Like in high school, I went to like a very hard school. It's like small and competitive. My friends were super smart, so I was always like really pushing myself to like take the APs and be in extracurriculars and get into the best college. And it was like all stress that I put on myself. Like my parents never put pressure. They were like, "You're amazing." My mom was such a great cheerleader, and my dad pushed me more to be like entrepreneurial. So, like, when my college newspaper wasn't giving me any articles, he's like, "Well, just start your own." And I was like, "Okay." And so I did. But I started as like a blog, but it was like there were a lot of roadblocks. No one wanted to say yes, and I did it anyway. One thing I was shocked about when I went to college was that there weren't a lot of Jews. I mean, there were
Where did you
Jews.
go?
I went to Delaware, so there were Jews. It's just like I went to a high school where like all of my friends were Jewish. Like it felt like my high school was majority Jewish. And there were a few colleges I like one college I got into, I was like, I'm not gonna go. Like there's not enough Jews. Because I think being Jewish is such a specific like way of being, you're
Yeah.
Jewish. Like you you want to at least have some Jews around you. Um
Yeah.
so yeah, I went to Delaware. I actually went, you can like go a couple of days early for like, what do they call it? Jew Fest, Hillel, Freshman Fest. It's run, yeah.
Jew
No,
Fest.
it's called,
That I mean, that would be if it would that would be a fun
that'd
thing.
be fun. They should do a Jew
Jew
Fest.
Fest.
Maybe we do a Jew Fest.
Ideas. Keep
Yeah,
going.
I
Keep
actually have
going.
like I've been thinking about a Jew Fest for a while, but anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Um, so Hillel lets you go to school a couple of days early. Like the idea is because move-in day is on Saturday, so they're like, well, like Jews can't move in on Saturday. Like, I mean, I would have, but so they let you come on like a Friday morning, and they do all this programming, and then of course A Pi has a party. So I met a bunch of Jews through Freshman Fest, and then like the rest of the the non-Jews filed in after those couple of days. Um, but yeah, college was a great experience. I got really involved in the school paper and different activities. Made a lot of friends I'm still friends with today. I was sort of involved in Hillel, but not a lot. I definitely think I was not as connected to my Judaism in college at all. Um, and I kind of reconnected after Birthright, which I did 6 months after I graduated. So it's not like there was a huge gap. um,
How did Birthright go?
you know, I didn't love my trip, I have to say.
Oh.
But it's just like birthright trips are so hit or miss. Um, but
Were there hot soldiers though? Were there
um, okay, so kind of,
Oh my
yeah.
god, what did you do? What did you not do?
So I really liked one of my soldiers. It was not reciprocated. But yeah, so I go on birthright. It's fine. My sister was on a birth. I have two sisters. One is 2.5 years younger, one is 5.5 years younger. And the middle one went on birthright too, but we agreed to go on separate trips but at the same time. So when our trips ended, we went and stayed with our family. We stayed with a friend in Tel Aviv and then my family in Radana. Um, and somewhere along the way, I like met a guy. Yeah, it was on New Year's. I met him at a club, and then I like totally ditched my sister, like hung out with him for like the next week.
Was he cute?
So cute, so sweet. He was amazing, and then I left. I, like, extended my trip too. I was staying with my family, my sister left. I think I stayed, like, another week. So I was with him for, like, 2 wee I just, like I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna stay," and, like, move my stuff into his apartment.
Oh my god.
And I think he had a roommate. I don't think the roommate was happy about that, and then I, like, left the key in the door and took a nap so his, like, roommate couldn't get into the apartment. It was an accident. I felt really bad. Um, so yeah, I, like, kinda fell in love, and then I had to go home, and I started, like, an actual job 'cause it's between graduation and yeah, it was a few months after graduation. I started a job, and him and I, like, were kind of long distance for, like, almost a year, which is sort of crazy because he lived in Israel. So I'm like, birth rate wasn't great, but then I fell in love, which was great.
Do you still talk to him?
No, the last time we talked was 2020. You know, and
During
remember.
lockdown?
Hmm?
During lockdown?
Exactly, like, and that's kind of what sort of what made me do my first cartoon because during lockdown, everybody was like all the exes were, like, coming out of the woodwork, and
All the how many exes do you have?
oh my god. How do you think I have so much material for my cartoons?
Oh my
I mean, I like, people tell me this is wrong. I consider an ex, like, anybody that I went on a date with and didn't go on another one with.
Oh, then that's a lot. If I
Right.
did that, I would have, like, 10 exes.
So I'm like, I have a million. I mean, not a million, but like, no, like this real exes, like real like people that I had actually like been in a relationship with. There's like I think three of them reached out during the pandemic.
That's girl, I wish. I mean, I only have 1 ex. But how so now that you went on that trip and
Mhm.
now that what got your journey started with the work that you do outside of Jews and Doodles?
Oh, like my actual job and career.
Mhm.
Mm. Um, yeah, I work at a news site. I'm a content marketer, so I work on strategy, content strategy for advertisers, coming up with like content marketing ideas. So we'll like, for example, like a tech company will say, like, we have this new laptop and we want millennials to like want it. And then we come up with like a video or an article series and we pitch that idea. And then if they buy the idea, I'm responsible for getting it produced. So writing an article or overseeing a video shoot and scripting and all of that, finding talent to be in the video. So it's definitely fun. It's like a for me like the best of both worlds. Like the pre-sale is what is like the pitching part, and then the
Mhm.
post-sale is the production part. So I really like that. I had a job where I was only doing the production part and I kind of missed doing both. Um, so
That's big. So
yeah.
you're working, I'm assuming, with pretty big companies.
Yeah.
Can you
Sometimes like
tell us the companies that you've worked with in the past? Or that's
um
a NDA type of thing?
no, I don't think so. Um I so my I guess my most exciting I did a TikTok series for Lenovo. So
Oh, wow.
that was fun. I mean, you have to be like with any brand, and you have to be careful about like how you position the laptop in the videos. You really have to like keep your eyes on that, just because of branding. And then I did a video shoot with Enterprise, and we got to shoot it at City Field. Um, but it was like the worst timing for me personally because it was last April. Like I had to go on the shoot literally. I think Passover was on a Saturday, or and
Uh,
like the shoot was like when Tuesday to Thursday. It was so
so it was
stressful.
exhausting.
It was so because I was like working a full day of the shoot and then I would get back to the hotel and I was like, "Oh my God, I have like questions about the Haggadah. I have orders coming in. Like, how am I going to fulfill them?"
Mhm.
So it was, I think I was sending them to my dad and he was fulfilling them for me.
So your dad he's so now kind of going into how he kind of brought that entrepreneurial mindset in you, and then now he's helping you run your business that you have on the side of your main job. I'm assuming he's a very big inspiration for you.
Yeah. It's funny because growing up, I was always helping him with his
Mhm.
business. And I mentioned the Bri. I would help at his events after college. he was doing like smaller scale events for startups, and I would go to them and do registration and help set up and all of that. So everything I've just been involved with his business like since I was like a kid. Like I remember I
Hmm.
was like my parents would bring us to conferences as children. I would do registration at like 6 years old. Um so it's just kind of nice that now when I'm doing things and he's helping. So he's the one that gave me the idea for the Haggadah. Um, I had sold a few bat mitzvah cards and I had been drawing for like a few months and the cards, people liked them. And I was like, Dad, I really need like a good project or I don't even know how it came up, but he was like, Danielle, it seems like the Jews like your stuff. Like, because my content wasn't really Jewish until 2021. It was mostly about my dating life, about the pandemic. It was 2020, so it was like an election year, so it was like a little bit about like the presidential election, and not that I do that much politics anymore, but it was like, I mean, come on, like Trump and Biden, like there was so much there I could draw. I had a cartoon about like, do you remember that campaign where celebrities were like taking off their top and saying like vote? Like they would like or like post a really hot picture and then say like you should vote. There was like this whole thirst
Um,
trap campaign to get people to vote, and like so that was a cartoon. Um, but then I made like a bat mitzvah card, and I just like some Jewish stuff was coming up. Like I think I did like Rosh Hashanah versus New Year's. And then my dad said you should make a Haggadah and call it Forgot About It. And I was like, well, Dad, like it should be called Don't Forgot About It because like obviously we're not forgetting about it. So because of that, I made a Haggadah. Um, and he's the one who he's always helping. Like I needed to deliver them because I was written about like right before the article came out the day before Passover, so in Westchester. So he took me to Westchester to drop off Haggadahs. I've done events. He's My friends always ask if he's going to be at my events. They're like, "Where's your dad?" Because he always will come and bring the microphone and help with setup. And he's helped at my markets. I do live markets to sell things. He comes, and he's just like he's always been a step ahead. Like when I was doing my cartoons on paper, he was like, "Eventually, you're gonna need like an iPad or a digital drawing format because it'll make you faster." And I was like, "No, I like." The whole point why I started the cartoons was kind of like to relax, and it's to me it's relaxing to like draw on paper and do the watercolor. Like if you look at my old cartoons, like they're all on paper with watercolor and colored pencil. And I was like, I couldn't imagine going digital. And he was like, "You're gonna have to." And I was like, "No." And then I listened to him. He was right. He was like, "People are gonna ask you to draw cartoons, like pay you to draw cartoons for them." I was like, "No, they aren't." And like I've had a bunch of custom orders. um,
wow.
he's just like he's like, "You're gonna end up doing live events." I was like, "No, I'm not." I'm like, I've done several.
So your dad really, he was like the fortune teller for you. He kind of just knew what was going to happen, and it ended up working in your favor. I mean, look how many live events you've done that have been so successful.
Yeah, yeah, and it's nice. He's always there to help, and I think that one like other part of the story that like I don't really talk about is that him and I like many families like we struggled during the pandemic. We all like hold up together, me, him, and my sister, um, and like fought. It was hard. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. Like my dad and I like we had we were struggling. And I mean, we might get to this, but like you know, and I share this in my content sometimes, but like my mom died when I was 22. So it's been difficult to navigate like family dynamics, even though we do have this strong foundation. It was like based on my mom being there and being the glue. So for the past like 8 years, we've all had to put in the work to like make it work. And
Mhm.
it has not been easy at all. I mean, we all love each other so much, but like it's really hard. I think anyone who's lost someone like in their nuclear family can relate to it being like very difficult to like navigate that, and it be I guess in some ways easy for everyone to just go in their direction and be like we're never going to talk again. But that's like not how we are, and making it work is worth it, but it can be hard. So my dad and I were like struggling a bit, and then I made my first cartoon and my sister showed it to him, and he was like, "This is incredible." Like, and he actually draws too. And he was like, the spacing is great, and the the copy is great, and the colors are great, and like she just gets it. Like this is amazing. And and
So it was
then
kind of in your blood in a way.
it was in my blood, and then it kind of brought my dad and I back together because we like we were fighting, or we things weren't going well, and then I drew, and it gave us something, and it like brought us back together, and now everything's good, but it kind of like healed our relationship.
How so you were able to heal your relationship with your dad. How were you able to heal after you lost your mom?
Ooh.
Because that's something that's, especially at a young age, that's something that no kid should ever have to go through at that young of an age. I mean, you lose your parents no matter what.
Mhm.
It should, I mean, 9 times out of 10 it should be that you lose your parents, not the other way around, the parent losing their kid. That's just next level terrible.
I'm
But
so lucky my mom didn't have to deal with that.
I mean,
That's a
how
joke. Sometimes I make dark
no,
jokes.
and that's and how are you cope how did you cope with that very traumatizing point in your life? I mean, you lost your mom. I'm 23. You lost your mom like when you were a year younger than me. That's tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible. Obviously, it was very sudden, so it's not like I saw it coming at all. So I just remember saying to my, it was just like, it's like all of a sudden you're living life one way, and then all of a sudden, like it completely changes, and it's like,
Mhm.
sounds so obvious, but you're just not prepared. I was like, how do I deal with this? Like, how do I act? How do I go forward? I was like, I feel like it's almost like, this is such a weird analogy, but I said to my friends, it's like with like puberty, like everything happens like little by little, and like people tell you what to expect and how to handle it and this and that. And I was like, I feel like it was like this, like puberty is like a big life change, but it's very gradual. I was like, I feel like I had this big life change, but like no one told me how to manage it. I haven't been prepared, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know what to expect. And I just sort of like, in some ways, I'm a little bit like, I don't want to say type A, but I'm just like, I can be very focused on like a goal. So to me, after my mom died, I was like, okay, I'm going to treat this like it's an illness and like take care of it. So I just like went to a lot of therapy and was just trying to figure out like how to get through it. And I found that I did turn to humor sometimes. Um, and I remember I was like seeing two different therapists at the same time, and I was like, I feel like I'm like cheating on one with the other, like, and I forget who I told what to, and it's like, and I just made so many jokes, like I'm just like in so much therapy, like I pretty much go every day, like, or I just like made a lot of fun of myself, and I mean, they say that there's such a fine line between like tragedy and humor, or tragedy and comedy, and I found that all the time because things were just so horrible. It's like funny. I don't know, like so bad it's
Mm,
good. Is that the expression? Like I
I
remember like
get, yeah.
at Shiva, like I was just, there's so many people at my house and so many people I didn't expect to see, and I just felt so overwhelmed that we live in like a split level house, and there's like stairs kind of in the middle of like the living room, like a little staircase, and then there's sort of like a little, the second level kind of overlooked the first level because it's like split, everything's kind of together, kind of like how my family was, like no boundaries, no walls, no stair. Well, there were walls, but anyway, so and we did have boundaries, but I don't want to exaggerate, but anyway, we so I'm like, I'm in Shiva, and then I'm kind of in the middle of the living room, and I just like fainted during Shiva, and it made this like loud thud, like even my friends downstairs, they were like, what was that? And then my dad like tried to carry me up the stairs, but I think I was like the fattest I'd been, like, or the heaviest I've been, college, Shiva, whatever, like, and he hadn't like carried me since I was like a child. So I think he thought he could just like lift me, but he couldn't. So now like 100 people are watching my dad like try to carry me up the stairs. And then my uncle tried to help, and I was like, and then my sisters, like each one grabbed a leg, and I was like, oh my God, guys, it was so embarrassing. And then they like, put me in my mom's bed, and I was like, "Bring me blueberries," and they were like, "People wanna say goodbye to you." I was like, "You," I, like, said to my friends, "You need to vet it through me, like, no one can come up unless I say so, like, I don't want just anybody coming up here," and
You're such a diva.
I was such a grief diva, right? Um, and I felt like such a queen. I was like, "I'm unwell, like, the queen is unwell."
Oh my
So just,
god.
like, and I would, like, laugh about this, or, like, the superintendent, like, came to the house and asked if I needed help, needed anything, and, like, no one else was there, so it was kinda weird. She, like, came on her own, and I was like, "Can you drive me to CVS?" And I think she was, like, shocked I actually asked for something, and then I, like, ended up having a panic attack in CVS, and it was just, like, so awkward with her, 'cause I was like, "That was bad." So just so much funny stuff happened, and I remember, like, it was just so hard to relate to people my age, but I think humor, I would, like, kind of try to find the humor in it, but I think that kind of freaked people out, but it was, like, the only way I knew how to deal with it.
You took your humor and you did stand-up comedy too, which
Yeah, that
yeah.
happened in 2018. So my mom died in 2015, and then in 2018, I signed up for, like, an intro to comedy class in Astoria, and you have to come to the first class with 5 minutes of material. And I was like, "I don't know what to talk about." So I made a bunch of jokes, like, about my family, my grandma, and I had this one joke that was, like, something like, "I feel like I can get away with anything." I was like, "My mom died a few years ago. Don't worry, we can laugh about it. Like, my dad said it was okay." Um, Something like that, and then it was like, "I can get away with anything because of my grief card." And something like that. I was thinking about this last night. I was like, I think that was the joke, and everyone liked it. So my instructor was like, "You should just do your 5 minutes about grief because that was your best material." And so I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, didn't expect to do that, but if you say so. So I built a 5 minutes about grief, and um I I had this, like, whole elaborate joke about my grief card and how I'm, like, an overdraft because I, like, overused my credit, and how I had, like, bucket, or I don't even remember. I had, like, oh, I used, like, 10% of my anger credit and 20% of my public crying, and um, I don't know, it was like an elaborate joke, and I just, like, yeah, so I built this whole set, and I was doing it at, like, I got booked in a few shows, I was doing it at some open mics, but it was just, I mean, at the time, I feel like now if I did stand up about grief, it would, like, go over better, but at some open mics, it was, like, something that just wasn't, it was, like, before TikTok, like, even though we're just talking about a few years ago, like, I feel like people are so much more open about every feeling now, and, like, raw, vulnerable emotion. And when I was, like, going around to open mics in 2018, 2019, 2020 for a bit, it was, like, hard to get into, like, a room of strangers and be like, "Hi, so, like, my mom died."
Just like lay it on the table right there.
Yeah, like, "Okay, now I'm gonna make jokes, and it's okay," and, like, it just depended on the crowd. Some people were very open to it, and some people, it took them a while to warm to
Yeah.
it, especially with, like, an open mic, you have, like, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, so it's hard. And then after a while, like, the jokes that I wrote in 2018 just, like, weren't really, like, accurate. They didn't, like, feel
Working.
right anymore. Yeah, I was like, I've moved past my public crying for the most part, and my, like, anger, and my, like, public panic attacks, and um just a lot of the stuff, like, didn't really I felt like I moved past a lot of that. So then I had a joke I really like that I know I've moved on. I don't like the word moved on. Move forward. I know I've moved forward because I used to go to the cemetery and visit my mom and cry, but now I go and I compare her plot to everybody else's. So I'm like, "Dad, how come the Schwartzmans have an ivy bush and we don't?" And, like, her plot is cleaner. Can we get someone in here to fix it? So now it's like a Keeping Up with the Joneses situation at the cemetery.
I love that you're able to take all the hardship that you've gone through and make it into something positive, make it into something the that doesn't wanna make you cry or make you angry because we're already living in a world that kinda sucks now with everything that's happening, and
Mhm.
to be able to have that lightness even with something that's completely not good, tragic situation. I wish I'm trying to do that more. I mean, my dad is going through his own health struggles, and
Mhm.
it's gotten to a point where even when something is just so ridiculous, like he's yelling at me or he's like making weird noises because
Mm.
mentally he's not okay. It's very sad. I can't cry anymore. I laugh. It's bad. Like in situations where I shouldn't laugh, I'm laughing because I just that's the only emotion that I can invoke now.
Yeah,
I don't know if
I'm
you feel
sorry
have
to
you
hear
felt
that.
that? Like,
Um, yeah, I mean, I just remember, like, sitting there. This is kind of a funny anecdote. So, and something about growing up in Westchester. So, my family, like, we went to a bunch of different temples, but we ended up at a Chabad, which is funny because I'm pretty reform. And the rabbi was really great. And after my mom died, very lucky to have them. They were wonderful. But he brought over this woman who was sort of like a kind of like a trauma and grief specialist for kids. And she came over and wanted to like talk to us. And I just remember like she didn't really know our name. Like she didn't know a lot about us. I think that she just kind of like showed up. And I just remember like she left and my sisters were like absolutely not. And I don't even remember my story, but like we were just kind of like hysterically laughing that like she was there. And I just remember like it was just so horrible and so tragic and so upsetting. But then we could also like I just remember moments during Shiva of like laughing or um I forget your question. But it was just like
it,
this is
it
so
was
horrible. This is such a nightmare that like
uh
what can I do? Like I keep crying. Maybe I laugh, like, it's just this crazy space to be in where you're just like, "I don't know, like, what am I supposed to
yeah.
do?"
No, it wasn't even a question. I was just trying to see if you could
Yeah.
relate on that with like laughing at something that's just it's so serious or it's like a lot of people who haven't gone through grief, they do
Mhm.
that. You can't be upset all the time. It's just it's not healthy.
I agree, and I think if you have an understanding of, like, the heaviness of something, then you have the right to make light of it. Like, with my family, like, I feel the void of my mom not being here all the time. And I mean, it's gotten better, but and there I have good days and I have bad days, and usually the weeks leading up to the yard site or the anniversary of her death are like just I
It's
always like
tough.
feel like shit. Honestly, I'm just like, why do I feel like shit? And I'm like, oh, because my body. I don't know. I feel like my body feels like it's that time where this like terrible thing happened to me. It's just like almost physical. And like every, I was with my grandma and my dad on Mother's Day, and I'm just like, how did my family that was like this get to this? And it's not like it's it's still beautiful the way our family is, and it's still great, but there's like this void, and it's really sad. So I feel like oftentimes like those heavier and sadder moments are the ones that fill more of your time. So why not sometimes when you can like make light of it and make it funny and expose like the ridiculousness of like life and these things that are so out of our control. So sometimes the only thing in your control is like the way that you react, and making like a joke that can kind of like make everyone laugh for a second and forget about that and like feel like you're in control of the situation and like the narrative in some ways is so worth it.
Hmm. I love that. I I love that we're on the same page about that because a lot of people would think otherwise. They'd kind of make you feel bad for it, but it's your own it's your own shit that you're going through. You're allowed
Right.
to make a joke about something that you're going through. And sometimes like I'm sure you can get a picture of my mom if I try cracking a joke about something that's not really funny, but I'm trying to get through it with humor, she sometimes is just like, Michael, don't. Like, because she's just not like that the way that I am, and that's
Hmm.
okay. Some people aren't, but
It's not for
you,
everybody.
it's not. But we see that side of you making light of serious situations or just like kind of trying to figure out if it's a good deed or a bad deed, a mitzvah or a shanda.
Hmm.
How did you get into creating that game and taking these? either serious instances or kind of ridiculous situations and making light of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that my whole and we've probably talked about this before, but some when I started making Jewish content, I think um, a big part of my mission is like, how do we make Jewish things like accessible and fun for everybody and take that seriousness out of it? And I
Mhm.
think, I mean, like I said, I'm a bit more reform. I don't go to services a lot, although I do like the tradition of Judaism, and there's nothing wrong with like going to services, but I do think sometimes they can be hard. Even me, like I grew up going to Hebrew school and synagogue, and then I started going to like more Jewish events after birthright because I met someone who would take me to everything, and I was like, ah, there's like a lot that I don't understand, and I feel a little intimidated, and even though I'm a Jew, like there's so many spaces that you can feel like a bit intimidated and like you don't know enough, and I think Judaism is just such a beautiful religion and culture, and like there's so much that we do have in common, and just in terms of like our experiences and family and like these situations. And I really enjoy like the more people I meet, like learning how much we have in common and just like this thing that like bonds all of us. So I had made a bunch of products already and I got this award last summer from New York Jewish
Jew
Week.
I was just that was actually one of the points that I wanted to bring up. You got
Ooh,
Jewish Week's 36 to watch, which is very, very applaudable.
yes, thank you. So I got that last summer and I was like I had just done my Haggadah and I had nothing for the summer. So I was like, ah, like what do I do? They're watching. Like everyone's watching. I mean, I don't think everyone's watching.
You make it sound like you're being stalked or something. You're being stalked by the Jews.
Like they have tabs of me and now they're it almost felt like, oh my gosh, do I deserve this award? Now I need to like do something to prove that I deserve it. Which is like again me just like putting this pressure on myself, like which is a
Mhm.
theme in my life, which makes me produce a lot of things, which also gives me a lot of stress.
Me. Me.
It's like, I mean, then we're very productive people, but it's also like I stress myself out. But and when you're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, your drawings are calm," I'm like, I'm glad I convey that because that's not me really all the time. Um, so I was like there watching and I was like, all right, I need to make something for Rosh Hashanah. And I just remember like this whole concept of sins feels so serious and also ambiguous. Like, what's a sin? How do you really, like, when you do tashlich and throw your sins into the water, it's like, how do you know what a sin actually is or isn't? And I just thought it was like kind of silly too. Like, there's so many things in Judaism that are just like a little silly. Um, and, like, if you really think about it, I'm like, like throwing a sit into the water. It's like a silly I saw this tweet that was like, "We're so cute. We kiss our Torah, we kiss our mezuzah, and, like, we like, touch the challah, and, like, we're just so cute." I'm like, "Yeah." So, anyway
Wait, that gives me an idea for one of our projects. We should put a thing saying like, "Oh, it's so cute." You continue, continue.
Okay, we'll have our brainstorm. See, so
Yeah.
many ideas come up all the time. There's so much there. So I was like, okay, this whole sin thing, like I'm confused. Like, so I was like, maybe I make like a game around sins. And when I was a kid, my sisters and I, like, again, when I say it's silly, like there are ways. I mean, I just learned about the tradition that, like I think it's a Sephardic tradition on Passover during Dayenu, you like hit each other with scallions.
Yeah.
I'm
It get
Ashkenaz.
shit goes down in this house when
Yes.
it's Passover. We're like beating each other, red marks. Like you got to be careful. It's
Oh my
bad. Like,
gosh.
and we're Persian, so we're very aggressive.
Yeah, I didn't know this existed till my Persian friend from Great Neck like told me about this, and or someone else told me, but I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. Um, I love it, and I'd never done it, so I was like, oh, there's just so many traditions. I love it. So now all the Jewish holidays that I loved and made me so happy have this like tinge of sadness, and it's gotten better over the years, but like it really isn't. It hasn't really gotten perfect. Nothing's perfect, but it's not something I've resolved. Like, I don't. I used to go to temple for the high holidays with my mom. Now, like my sisters and my dad, we all live in different cities, and even after my mom died and I was living in Westchester, like I went to Chabad, so it's men and women are separate. So like my dad, I was like, well, you can come with me to Chabad, but then we're not even sitting together. So it's been hard to like figure out my traditions after my mom died because everything was so tied to her, which is another kind of reason subconsciously I think I've decided to create. I don't know if I decided, I think it just happened that I ended up creating all these products because I'm like, if I can make a holiday easier or more fun or happier for someone who's celebrating it like with their family or in a new way, like this is like the stuff that I need now that everything's changed for me. So hopefully it like helps other people. I mean, that's kind of why I was so excited about the Haggadah. Um, so growing up, my sisters and I, we'd like go throw our bread into the water and we'd be like, you need to throw more bread. You've so many sins and like you did this, like you took my skirt, like you throw a sin for that. Oh, and you made me late for school. Throw in more bread for that. So it just like got very silly. So I was like, maybe there's a game around that. And I thought that the game would be like called Sinners or like Bad Apple and just like be about sins. And I kind of like, long story short, tricked a bunch of people into coming to my house for Shabbat for like a game night, but really it was like a focus group. I like kind of mentioned it in the description, but I don't think people exactly realized what was happening. And then I was like, okay, everyone, like, what do you think I should do for a game? And like, here's an index card, like, write down a sin. And we just like we did have like a focus group in this living room that I'm sitting in right now. And at the very end of like this like roundabout conversation, someone was like, "Well, when someone has like something in their teeth, do you tell them? When someone's fly is down, do you tell them? If you're like on a dating app and you start going out with someone, but you know that your friend went out with them a few years ago, like, is that okay?" And everyone like got so into the conversation. And I was like, okay, everyone out. Like, not really, but like in my head, I was like, okay, okay, they need to go. Like, I have my idea. And I was like, this is the game. I need to come up with like debatable Jewish situations, and then you decide if it's good or bad. And then I don't even know how it all happened, but then it became Mitzvah or Shonda. And I think my dad says he came up with the name. I say that I do. I even have a video of us like fighting about it. I've never posted it, but and then it just grew from there. And I had the whole game as like a prototype on index cards, and I would like bring it. I had like a couple of happy hours where I tested it, and then it like turned into an actual game, an actual product.
And that turned into a show.
Yeah, I don't even. Sometimes I'm like, why did I do that?
No, but it's a game where I mean you could really do so much with it. I mean,
Yeah.
it could e
Well, almost like how did I get there? Cause but yes, I think I turned it into a show because I thought it would help like sell the game, and then I was like, wait, the show is actually. I remember being on stage for the first show, and I was like, it was the first one, so everyone knew like roll with the punches. This
Mhm.
is new, and I was like, guys, this is fun, right? Like I'm having fun, and they were all like, yeah, this is really fun. And the comedians who do the show like get off the stage and they're like, that was so fun, thanks. Like thank you for letting me do this show. I had so much fun. And I don't think that's something that like happens a lot at shows. Like everything's entertaining,
Yeah.
like a comedy show or with this show, people are like, that was interesting. That was fun.
I gotta get on one of these games, or I gotta come and see it at least. Like it sounds so fun.
Should we do one?
Oh my god,
Is that okay?
yes,
It's on the list of questions.
yeah.
I have
Can
the
we
game
do like
here.
an Can we do an abridged version?
I'm just gonna read you one card.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
Yay. Okay, let's do
Also,
this.
like, yeah, this is the game. I've like brought this to so many events and shows that the box is kind of falling apart.
Mm.
Okay, I'm gonna pick a card. I did not plan this, so I also want to say the game Mitzvah Shonda. So many of the situations in the game are like literally based on my family, which is really sweet for me because like I said, I had this like very fun, chaotic, like hilarious upbringing with my family, so many stories, and to like be able to incorporate it into something that like people enjoy and get a taste of like who I am and my family like feels so good. And it's almost a way to like keep my mom's legacy alive, like in a way. Like she was such a good storyteller. She always had drama and like but like funny drama and stories, and she just always held court like entertaining us. So I feel like this is sort of in a way her legacy.
Hmm.
So it's really nice to like share that with people. And when I do the show, I'll like read a card, and sometimes I'm like, this literally happened to my family, and or, like my sister did this, or like I have one about like you know, this one's my favorite. I'm not gonna read this one too because it's not seasonal, but um, it's like you go on a hayride, a Christmas hayride, and the priest asks if anybody knows a Christmas carol, and you suggest singing "I Have a Little Dreidel." And people are like, "What? Like that's hilarious." And I'm like, "Well, like that happened to my family. Like my dad took my sister on a Christmas hayride when she was 6 and she had everybody sing I have a little dreidel." And so just like stuff like that is and then you weigh in Mitzvah or Shonda. So I picked one for you randomly.
Yes.
Okay, it's your first summer at sleepaway camp. You don't love the activities, so you set up a meeting with the director to give her your feedback.
You don't personally like the activities, or you and a group of people don't like it?
Just you.
It's not even a mitzvah or shanda. That's just being pretentious. That's like, I mean, at least get a group of people to go with you, get people to agree with you. Then it would be a mitzvah. I mean, if
That's such a
you're,
good take.
that's just pretentious. You're like, oh, I don't like the activities at the Jewish summer day camp. I'm gonna go to the
Sleepaway
counselor and
camp.
change the
Sleepaway
sleepaway
camp.
camp.
I
Oh,
mean, I kind of think it's a mitzvah because I would so do this.
I mean, I
Or maybe
think
I'd call my mom to do it.
that's even worse. That's even worse. But
Well, maybe we would have been friends at sleepaway camp then.
I mean, if you had good ideas, if you shared them with me, if you
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I have great ideas to change the activities," and you would have told me, if there were good ideas, I would have been totally in. The only sleepaway camp I ever went to, oh my gosh, it was called Seneca Lake. Absolutely
Is
terrible
that the
camp.
theatery one? No, that's
No,
French Woods. That's French
that's
Woods.
French Woods.
Yeah.
That's like the 20K bougie one that no one
Oh,
can afford. But
well.
this it was called Camp Seneca Lake. It was a basketball camp for a week. My mom and her childhood friend, who she's still friends to this day with, she was putting her son in this camp, and my mom's friend was like, "Oh, it's a good idea. You should put Michael in this camp." And I was overweight at the time, so she was like, "Oh, he might lose some weight." So
Oh.
she yeah, so she put me in this camp. I kid you not, it was probably one of the worst weeks I've ever had in my childhood.
Oh.
I It was really, really bad, to the point where, oh my god, I will never forget it. There were a bunch of these assholes in my bunk. I was bunked with one of the kids that I was with. I actually went to elementary school with him, and I was friends with him in elementary school, and it was so fucking weird. It was like, I mean, we were young. This was like almost 10 years ago, probably 10, 12 years ago, but he was just so weird with me. And it got to the point where these kids were so mean. They I remember one night they took my towel, because we had like an open, like, kind of communal bathroom area in the back of the bunk, and they took my towel, they were trying to rip off the shower curtain while I was taking a shower. I remember I ran out. I was like so mad. And I was like, and when I got back home, when I got back home to my mom and everything, I said to her, I was like, never do that again. That was absolute horror. But if you were in camp with me and we were together and you had good ideas to change the activities, I would have loved it. I mean,
See, so
anything.
maybe it's a mitzvah. Maybe it's a mitzvah.
Yeah, it's a mitzvah. What they did at the camp that I went to was
Oh,
Shanda. That
absolute
was
Shonda.
Shanda.
Absolute
That was.
Shonda. See,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the game is fun because I find like when you play it, it kind of like pulls out these old stories in us and it's just I think it's a fun way to like get to know each other and just kind of like laugh about shared experiences because like us two, we both have gone to sleepaway camp. I did not go to basketball camp, thank God. But
Oh my god. And I'm not a sports person at all, so they had me like doing random shit during the game. I
oh my
think I
God.
sat out most of the games because they saw that I didn't know how
You
to
got
play.
water for people.
I was the I don't think I was the water boy. No.
That's
I
probably a
wasn't the
special skill to be the water boy, actually.
I
I
mean,
went to field hockey camp for 3 days, like literally just 3 days. And I think when my parents picked me up, I like cried of happiness. I was like, let's never do that. I was the one who wanted to go because I was playing field hockey and I was bad at it. So I was like, let me go to camp and like improve my skills. And I'm so not athletic. When I
mm,
left, they give you a card on like when you get there, they assess your skills, and then when you leave, they like assess your skills to see if you like got better.
Did you get worse?
I think I did get or I like stayed the same. It was like Danielle needs improvement. Like you should send her for 2 weeks next time. I was like, fuck it, I don't care. I'm not gonna be good at field hockey. Just take me home.
Oh my god. Mm-mm. Let's just tell them what we have planned. Let's just
Okay.
tell all the people watching and listening what's coming in the future because y'all aren't seeing this until September, so you're gonna get the announcement
Oh my
probably
gosh. I hope
in
I
about
hope
a month.
it's done by then. Can I show them like what started it? I have
Yeah.
a prop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was telling Michael about my products, and not all of them have been smash hits. Is that what I say? Telling my friends this last night, actually. I'll make a product that I feel like is for everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we need to narrow it down. So, this is an example. It's my Hanukkah book called Hanukkah in Your Hands. And the issue is that I think that I was making the book for people my own age, like a guide to Hanukkah. Like, who doesn't
Mm-hmm.
need that? And it has the story of Hanukkah and it has recipes and it has ideas for every night. But I think a lot of people thought it was for kids. And if it was for kids, I would have like done it a little bit differently. And if it was
Mm-hmm.
like just straight up for adults, I could have done it, like made it even like more hot. So I showed Michael this book and I think that your reaction was like, it's so cute. Like it has like such good content inside, but like it needs to be more premium. It needs to be more like Gen Z. Is that the
Mm-hmm.
word that you used? You're like, I want it to like appeal to Gen Z. And I was like, honestly, me
Yeah.
too. um, so I think then we had the idea to just revamp the book and call it Hot Jewish Hanukkah and
Mm-hmm.
just make it for, Gen Z and up and make it hotter. And I think that there are like so many fun ways that we can dig into that theme. And I'm really excited. And like that conversation that we had, I think like 2 months ago or so, which was really long. I had nowhere to go and I couldn't. I had broken my ankle. So like you had my full
I
attention. I was like,
remember. I remember I was sitting in my car the whole time. I was like, damn, this girl has not been having luck.
I was like, I'm like on crutches. Like I'm afraid to leave my apartment. Like I'm just here until you don't want to talk to me anymore. Um, So you like unlocked something in me where I was like, I don't know. And it was, I'm just very grateful that you did because I was like, yeah, I can like have a little bit more fun. I can be a little bit more myself. Like I am an adult. Like I, tastefully, tastefully hot. And so now
Yeah.
I'm kind of like trying to do that with like my cartoons too, be a little bit more
Yeah.
tastefully hot.
You're taking submissions now for Sex Life of Jewish Girls, which I remember you texted me about it. You said, "Oh, I have an idea. What if I did this?" And I said, "I want in on this. Like this is fun." Like I think I even the
Yeah.
first thing that I sent you is like, "Oh, you encounter your first uncircumcised penis."
Hmm.
And I'm sure from whatever submissions you get, there's gonna be someone who has that. That I mean, I would consider it a horror story. I
Oh, well.
personally, yeah, I've had my one experience of well, no, two. Ooh, it
Ooh,
was two.
too.
One was an
I'm
American guy. One was American guy, and one was an Australian guy. And
Oh, well.
yeah, it was yeah, but
I'm
yeah,
not
when you
gonna count mine for you, but
we've already fed you guys enough
yeah,
today.
you're right, you're right, you're right.
Yeah, you
They
know
barely know
that.
anything about the book. It's just like it's gonna be
Oh yeah, it's gonna be. I think the nice thing about it, it's gonna. What me and Danielle were talking about, we wanted it to be something that it doesn't have to be updated every year. It can be
Mhm.
updated maybe let's say every 5 years, every
Yeah.
10 years. There's like editions of it, but I want it to be I really wanted it to be something, especially since I remember I told you like I wanted it hardcover, or at least
It's gonna
a
be
hardcover,
hardcover, I
or at
think.
least an option if people can't afford hardcover, which I totally
Oh, true,
get.
true. Okay.
It hardcover can be expensive, but um I want it to be something that can be in your bookshelf for many years. It's not something that's going to get I want it timeless, something that's going to be
Timeless,
timeless. Yeah.
evergreen. Yeah, because and that was the issue I've been running into with my books. I'm like, I want to update it every year, and then I'm like, Danielle, why do we do this to ourselves? And also, like, people might not want to buy a new one every year. That was the issue I ran into with my Haggadah this year. So now I'm planning to make my Haggadah. Right now, it's New York themed, And I mean, I think I'm going to edit it to be more evergreen and then do more cities. Something that's fun about like my content, it'll be fun about our book and like my cartoons. I think a lot of them have like this unexpected element, like they just look so sweet, and that's kind of my comedy, and the like the grief comedy I did too. I think
Hmm.
I get up there, or as myself, or if I present like a cartoon, you think it's going to be one thing and then it's kind of something a little bit different. And I like that like element of surprise, and like I know this is like an expression that's lame, but like surprise and delight, or
Hmm.
I like hearing like the giggle people have from like being surprised, or even with the Mitzvah Shonda game, like of course it was random. I didn't pick like my best cards, but some of them like you pick it and you're like, ooh, like what? Hee hee. Like that's so funny and like unexpected. Um, so I like giving people that experience. I'm like, who knew that I could sort of draw and deliver it that way?
I think everyone that follows you, everyone that follows your journey, they see that too. They see that it's something that's very important, something that's very lighthearted, something that is fun for the whole family. Really, I love that you're able to find your audience through people that are older, but also people that are younger too, so that it's for everyone. Everyone can have a little bit of fun. It's like SpongeBob.
Yes.
SpongeBob is a
Aw.
kids show, but you have some a little spiciness in there that flies over kids' heads.
I started this brand when I was like in a relationship with someone, and I mean I started drawing before that, but it kind of got a little bit bigger and I was like in a relationship, and I think the past few months I've been like dating and just more in that like single, we're not in a relationship anymore. So I've been like in that single world, and I think that kind of changes, I mean, your tone. I think anyone who creates content, like as you live your
Yeah,
life, like you go through different phases where what you want to share and your tone kind of shifts. So
yeah.
I think I'm ready, like I said when we started this podcast, and um to be tastefully hotter. And I mean, one day I want to make an expansion pack of Mitzvah Shonda that's like, what do we call it? I actually,
The the hot Jew pack.
the hot Jew pack, or like sexy shot. I don't know. I actually saw on someone else's site, so I can't take this, but they were like, rated race, which I think is so funny.
That's okay.
So I
That
might do
I
like a rated race version of Mitzvah Shonda. I think that Hot Jewish Hanukkah will be rated PG-13, but we'll see.
PG
Ooh, do you
13.
think race?
I don't know.
Let's
That's
see.
something that me and you have to figure out, and you guys are gonna find out later. But I I'm so thankful that you came on today. I love that we're gonna get to do work together. You're my first like kind of collab, like official like heart like IRL like product collab. I haven't done
Yeah.
anything with anyone, so it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Well, you're my first
I'm
podcast, so we're giving each other so many firsts.
oh, yay! I podcast virginity is gone. Product virginity is gone. Well, I made merch, but like collab product virginity is gone. But
You're gonna be in print.
I was telling my mom about it, and it just I I'm still in shock that this is gonna happen. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for
And
having me.
where can everyone find you?
So many places. So you can follow me at Jews in Doodles on Instagram, and then I also talked about the cartoons I do, like more about my life, and that's Danielle in Doodles. I also send out a newsletter about every week, and you can sign up on danielleindoodles.com. And I do, like Michael said, I've been producing comedy shows, events, etc. So I don't know what I have in store for the fall, but if you follow me on social media or my newsletter, I will not be quiet about it, so you'll know.
Yay. Well, thank you guys so much for watching wherever you are right now, at home, on the road, drinking your favorite coffee or something, whatever you're doing. Thank you so much for watching. You can find me at Hot Jewish Energy, at Hot Jewish Podcast, and at Michael T. Valdes with an S at the end, and my new page at Hot Jewish Short King. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a great day, night, wherever you are, and we'll catch you later. Bye, everybody.